And then, just like that, the room goes dead silent. I mean, can you imagine the awkwardness? These three guys, Eliphaz, Bildad, Zophar, they've been talking for what feels like weeks, and suddenly, they just quit. They have nothing left.
It's the ultimate mic drop, but not the good kind. It's the we give up because you're impossible kind of silence.
Exactly. And that's where we are today. Welcome back to the deeper dive on Bible in a Year, making it easier to understand. I'm John Dalton.
And I'm Stephanie. And honestly, John, looking at these chapters, Job 32, 33, and 34, it feels like we just hit a massive plot twist. It's like a new character just walked onto the set of a long-running drama in the middle of season 5.
Oh, it's a total disruption. We've spent days listening to the old guard try to tell Job why his life is falling apart, and then, out of nowhere, this guy Elihu shows up. And let me tell you, he is not happy.
He's fuming. The text says his wrath was aroused. But before we get into the anger, we have to talk about who this guy actually is. Because the Bible doesn't just say, some guy named Elihu. It gives us this really specific, almost high-definition genealogy.
Right. It's like his social media bio is verified from the jump. He's Elihu, the son of Barachel the Buzite, of the family of Ram. Now, I know for most people listening, Buzite sounds like, I don't know, a new brand of energy drink?
Buzite. Get your wisdom fast.
Exactly. But in the ancient world, this was a massive who's who moment. Barachel, his dad, his name literally means God blesses. So he comes from this pious, blessed household. And then you have the Buzite part. This is the aha moment for the history buffs. Buz was actually the son of Nahor. And who was Nahor?
Wait, I know this one. Nahor was Abraham's brother.
Boom. You got it. So Elihu is technically a distant relative of the family of promise. He's not some random wanderer. He's part of the extended Abrahamic circle. He's from the region of northern Arabia, near the Mesopotamian border. He's an insider who's been watching from the sidelines.
That makes so much sense why he feels so entitled to speak. But John, imagine the scene. You've got Job, covered in sores, sitting in the ashes. You've got these three respected elders who have been debating him. And then you have this kid. Well, he calls himself young in years.
Yeah, he's the classic angry young man. Think of that one person in the group chat who stays on red for 3 days while everyone else is arguing, and then suddenly drops a 50-paragraph manifest at 2 a.m.
That is so Elihu. He says in Job 32, I am young and you are very old. Therefore I was timid and afraid to tell you what I know. He's been holding it in, John. He's been biting his tongue so hard it's probably bleeding.
He's like a pressure cooker. He says his heart is like unvented wine, like a wineskin about to burst. He's been listening to the three friends fail to answer Job, and he's been listening to Job justify himself rather than God. And finally, the valve just snaps.
But why the anger? I mean, Job is suffering. Isn't Elihu being a little much? He's angry at Job for justifying himself rather than God, but he's also angry at the three friends because they found no answer and yet had condemned Job.
That's the kicker, Steph. He's mad at everyone. He's the disruptor who thinks the establishment is incompetent and the rebel, Job, is arrogant. He's basically saying, you guys are all doing this wrong. The old guys aren't wise just because they're old, and the sufferer isn't right just because he's in pain.
It's such a modern vibe, isn't it? That feeling that the experts don't actually have the answers. He says, it is not only the old who are wise, nor only the aged who understand what is right. He's challenging the idea that experience, intellect, and tradition are the only ways to find truth.
Exactly. He's coming in with this new paradigm. He's claiming a different source of authority. He's not looking at his years. He's looking at his spirit. He tells them, but it is a spirit in man and the breath of the Almighty that gives them understanding.
The breath of the Almighty. That's so beautiful, but also bold. He's essentially saying, God whispered the answer to me because you guys were too busy listening to yourselves talk.
It's incredibly bold. It's that 2026 founder marketing energy. He's building his own brand of wisdom right in the middle of a disaster. And he doesn't hold back. He starts checking Job's receipts immediately. He's like, Job, I heard you say you're pure. I heard you say you're without transgression. But here's the deal. God is greater than man. Why are you picking a fight with him?
It feels harsh, but you can tell he's trying to be different than the other three. He says, I too am a piece of clay. He's trying to identify with Job, even while he's rebuking him. He's like, look, I'm human too. I'm not some terrifying angel. My hand won't be heavy on you, but also, you're wrong.
You're my brother in clay, but you're also failing the test, man. It's that weird mix of empathy and absolute certainty, and he's setting the stage for something massive. He's moving the conversation away from Job, what did you do wrong, to Job, what is God doing right now through this pain?
It's a complete shift in theodicy. That's the fancy word for why God allows evil, right? Instead of the sowing and reaping math of the other friends, bad thing happens because you were bad, Elihu starts talking about suffering as a warning, like a GPS rerouting you before you drive off a cliff.
Precisely. He's saying God speaks one way, then another, but people don't perceive it. He talks about dreams, and then he talks about the bed of suffering. He's suggesting that pain isn't a punishment for a past sin, but a prevention for a future one. It's God playing the long game.
I love that, the long game. Because when you're in the middle of Job 32, 33, or 34, you can't see the end of the script. You just see the Job 32 on the page and feel the heat.
Right. You're staring at the Job 33 label and wondering when the rescue is coming. But Elihu is saying the rescue is actually in the struggle. It's the divine disruptor coming in to clear out the pride before the pit swallows you whole.
It's a lot to process. I mean, we just met this guy and he's already completely flipped the script. I think we need a second to let this genealogy and this wrath sink in.
Oh, we definitely do. Because when we come back, we're going to look at the specific words Elihu uses for spirit and breath, because they aren't what you think they are. And we're going to talk about that long game analogy in a way that's going to make you look at your own worst week ever, totally differently.
Can't wait. We'll be right back.
Stick around. And we are back. You're listening to the deeper dive on Bible in a Year, making it easier to understand. Before the break, we were looking at Elihu, the young, high-energy disruptor who basically crashed the party in Job chapter 32.
He really did. And John, you mentioned something right at the end of the last segment that I want to circle back to. Elihu makes this bold claim in verse 8. He says, "But it is a spirit in man, and the breath of the Almighty, that gives them understanding."
Oh, that's the meat of the sandwich right there, Steph.
The meat of the sandwich? You are so hungry today. But seriously, spirit and breath. Those feel like very churchy words, what we call stained glass language. If I'm a 2026 seeker and I'm texting my friend about this, how do I explain what Elihu is actually saying? Because it sounds like he's just saying, I'm smart because God made me.
It's way deeper than that. This is where we have to hit the no jargon zone and look at the Hebrew. In Job 32 verse 8, he uses two specific words, ruach and neshama, and they aren't the same thing.
Okay, break it down for us. Ruach first.
Think of ruach as the engine. It's the active, animating life force. It's what makes a heart beat and lungs move. The Bible uses it for the wind, for the breath, and for that general energy that keeps every living thing mobile. It's like the electricity supplying a house. It's what keeps the lights on and the fridge humming.
So, everything that's alive has ruach?
Exactly. But then Elihu drops the second word, neshama. This is the divine spark or the intellectual soul. This isn't just the electricity. This is the software. It's the godly soul that gives humans the ability to reason, to socialize, and, most importantly, to understand divine purpose.
So, if ruach is the electricity in the house, what is neshama?
Neshama is the high-speed internet connection and the smart home settings. It's what gives the house good sense. Elihu is telling these old guys, look, you've got the ruach. You're alive. You're breathing. But neshama? That comes from the Almighty. Understanding isn't a trophy you win for staying alive for 80 years. It's a gift God gives to the humble.
Wow, that actually takes a lot of pressure off, doesn't it? It means wisdom isn't about how many books you've read or how many gray hairs you have. It's about being yielded. That's a big 2026 word we're seeing everywhere, to the breath of the Almighty.
Precisely. And that leads us into the modern mirror for today, because Elihu is about to explain why God might be letting Job go through this absolute nightmare. He's moving the goalposts. The three friends were playing sowing and reaping, like a vending machine. You put in a bad action, you get a bad consequence.
And Job was saying the vending machine is broken.
Right. Job's like, I put in $1 and I got a bag of rocks. But Elihu says, wait, what if God isn't a vending machine? What if he's a parent playing the long game?
Explain that. The long game. Because when you're in pain, like Job, sitting in the ashes, the long game feels like a cruel joke.
I know. But think about this analogy. Imagine a parent taking their toddler to their very first swim lesson.
Oh, I've seen this. It's heart-wrenching. The kid is screaming, reaching for the parent, eyes wide with terror because they think they're drowning.
Exactly. And from the kid's perspective, the parent is being cruel. Why are you letting this stranger hold me in the water? Why aren't you rescuing me? But the parent has a long game vision. They are letting the child scream through the terrors of a swim lesson today so that they don't actually drown in the ocean 10 years from now.
So the pain of the lesson is actually the protection against the disaster.
Boom. That is Elihu's modern mirror. He looks at Job and says in chapter 33, God speaks through the bed of suffering. He's saying that sometimes physical pain is designed to show us spiritual danger. God throws us on a bed of suffering to keep us from the pit.
But John, that's a tough pill to swallow. Elihu is basically saying God uses suffering as a remedial tool or a GPS reroute. He says it's to turn a mortal away from an action and suppress pride. Is he saying Job was just too proud?
Well, he's definitely leaning that way. He thinks Job got so caught up in being right that he forgot that God is greater than any mortal. He says Job is multiplying words without knowledge. But here's the kicker, and this is what makes Elihu different from the other three. He's not just calling Job a sinner. He's saying God is a deliverer who uses discipline to save us from ourselves.
It's like a vaccine.
Exactly. A vaccine is a tiny, controlled dose of something bad that teaches your body how to survive the real thing. Elihu is suggesting that Job's trial is a divine vaccine against the pride that would have eventually led him to the pit.
That changes everything. It means my worst week ever, the job loss, the health scare, the relationship falling apart. It might not be God judging me. It might be God updating me.
Finding your phone fully charged and updated on your nightstand. Remember that one from our guide? It's exactly that. God is proactive. He's not waiting for us to fail so he can pounce. He's intervening through the struggle so he can preserve us.
I love how Elihu puts it in Job 33, verse 29. He says, God does all these things to a person, twice, even 3 times, to turn them back from the pit, that the light of life may shine on them. It's like God is the ultimate long game strategist. He's willing to let us be uncomfortable in the short term if it means we are set right in the long term.
And that light of life he mentions, that's not just a poetic phrase. That's a preview of where we're going in the next segment. Because Elihu is about to drop a hidden gem that is going to blow your mind. He starts talking about a mediator, 1 out of 1,000, and a ransom.
Wait, a ransom? Like a kidnapping?
Not quite, but the stakes are just as high. We're talking about the ultimate verified blue check mark of the soul. But we're going to save that for after the break.
You always do that. Stick around for the ransom.
Hey, it's a good hook. When we come back, we're going to look at the 1 in 1,000 mediator and that incredible mirror of bronze imagery. You do not want to miss this.
We'll be right back.
See you in a minute. And we are back. Welcome to the home stretch of the deeper dive on Bible in a Year, making it easier to understand. I'm John Dalton, and I am still buzzing, pun intended, from that Buzite genealogy we covered in segment 1.
You are never going to let that one go, are you? But John, before the break, you promised a cliffhanger. You said Elihu drops a hidden gem in Job chapter 33 that basically changes the entire vibe of the book.
Oh, it's the ultimate aha moment. If you've been reading Job and feeling like it's just one big, depressing loop of I'm innocent versus no, you're not, verse 23 is where the clouds finally start to part.
Okay, let's hear it. What is this gem?
It's the introduction of the militz. The ESV translates it as mediator or messenger. But the Hebrew word mileh is actually way cooler than that. In the ancient world, it was an internuncius, basically a high-level negotiator or an interpreter who stands between two parties who don't speak the same language.
So, like a diplomat? Or maybe a defense attorney?
Exactly. Elihu says, if there be for him an angel, a mediator, 1 out of 1,000, to declare to man what is right for him. Think about that phrase, 1 out of 1,000. It implies this figure is unique, preeminent, and, honestly, almost impossible to find on your own.
1 out of 1,000. That feels so exclusive. Like, if you're in the pit, as Elihu calls it, you can't just hire any old negotiator. You need the one.
Right. And here's the kicker. This mediator does something for the sufferer that the sufferer can't do for themselves. He goes to God and says, and I love this part, deliver him from going down into the pit. I have found a ransom.
Wait, I have found a ransom? Who found it? And what is the ransom? Because if I'm Job, I don't have anything left to pay. My kids are gone, my wealth is gone, my health is gone. I'm broke, John.
And that is the beauty of the modern mirror here, Steph. In our audience guide, we talk about the fully charged phone analogy, but this is more like a verified blue check mark that God himself provides. The word for ransom here is kopher.
Kopher. Why does that sound familiar?
Because it's the same root word as kafar, which means to cover or to overlay with pitch. It's the same word used for the pitch on Noah's Ark. It's a covering that keeps the water out and the judgment away. It's also the root of Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement.
So the ransom isn't something Job pays. It's something God finds.
Boom, you got it. Verse 24 says, I have found a ransom. The Hebrew word for found there, matzah, implies God was looking with earnest zeal and joy. God isn't a judge looking for a reason to throw you in jail. He's a father looking for a legal reason to let you go free.
That is such a massive shift from the three friends. They were saying, Job, find your own way out by confessing. Elihu is saying, God has found a way out through a mediator and a ransom.
It's a total gospel preview. Centuries before Jesus ever walked the earth, Elihu is describing this 1 in 1,000 who intercedes for the sinner and provides the payment. It's like finding out your massive student loan was just paid off by a stranger. You didn't do it. You couldn't do it. But the ransom was found.
And look at the result in verse 25. He says, let his flesh become fresh with youth. Let him return to the days of his youthful vigor. It's total restoration. It's not just getting by. It's a spiritual reset.
It really is. But Elihu doesn't stop there. He moves into chapter 34, and he gets a bit more, well, intense. He starts defending God's justice with this imagery that is, honestly, kind of terrifying if you aren't ready for it.
You mean the mirror of bronze stuff?
Yes. He talks about God spreading out the skies, hard as a cast metal mirror. Now, modern listeners might hear that and think, what's the big deal? I look in a mirror every morning.
And some of us take longer than others.
True. But in the ancient world, mirrors weren't glass. They were highly polished bronze or silver. They were heavy, unyielding, and incredibly strong. When Elihu says the sky is like a mirror of cast bronze, he's saying God's sovereignty is a firm, unshakable shield.
So it's a modern mirror for God's stability?
Exactly. He's telling Job, look up. The sky isn't just blue air. It's a hammered-out bronze reminder that God is in control and you are not. It highlights the separation between the divine and the human. We see a poor reflection, but God sees the whole picture.
It feels like Elihu is trying to move Job from, why is this happening, to who is doing this? He's trying to get Job to trust the character of God even when the circumstances are, well, bronze hard.
That's the bottom line, Steph. Elihu is the bridge. He's not perfect. He gets some things wrong about Job's attitude, but he correctly points out that God is greater than man and that he never perverts justice.
It's a lot to take in. We've gone from a young guy's wrath to a 1 in 1,000 mediator to a sky made of bronze. John, how do we wrap this up for the modern seeker who is just trying to survive their own pit today?
I think we end it where Elihu does. We stop the complaining and start the trusting. Here is your text message summary for today. Pain isn't always a punishment. It's often a GPS reroute away from pride and toward God's grace.
I love that. A GPS reroute. Because sometimes the pit is the only place we're finally quiet enough to hear the breath of the Almighty.
Exactly. So, if you're in a season of suffering, don't just look for an exit. Look for the mediator. Look for the Kopher. Because God has already found the ransom for you in Christ.
And that is a wrap on Job 32 through 34. We hope this made the text just a little bit easier to understand today.
Join us next time as we finally get to hear from God Himself out of the whirlwind. You do not want to miss that. I'm John Dalton.
And I'm Stephanie. We'll see you in the next one.
Keep digging deep.